I said, hey, AI, rewrite this for me. And AI came up with gaming together, growing together.
Nice.
And it says, I believe that games are not just about winning or losing. It's about the friendships formed and skills honed. I believe that a well-designed game can be a window into another world, capable of teaching, entertaining, and inspiring. And it wrote all these I believes.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Scary.
Yeah.
That's
Terrible. And that's the simple part of what we're going to talk about tonight.
Right. Hello, everyone. This is the Mind Forge podcast. Ethan Merriweather,
Alex Vaught III.
Mike Wilson,
Gary Gant,
and our special guest,
Bill Jobs.
Bill Jobs from
Jobs Technology Solutions.
Yes, sir. So we invited him today. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him for over a year, and he's well versed with AI technology and different things like that. He has a company. He'll probably touch concerning his company here in a moment. But we wanted to invite him here just to discuss the things of AI and what the future holds for it. So thank you for joining us.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. I'm looking forward to tonight.
Thank you for being
Can
here.
you give us a little bit of your background, your education, and how you got started in machine learning?
Sure, absolutely. I have a degree in math and computer science. My master's thesis was in automata theory, which is kind of the basis for compiler checkers, syntax checkers, and so forth. And I think I said earlier to someone that was like 30 years ago. So, and so it's amazing to see how technology has changed over the years,
especially over G's past 30 years.
Right, and so it's pretty amazing. And so as I kind of grown through my career, I've been very fortunate. I've worked at some really cool places. I've worked at one of the largest internet radio companies. Right before that was getting popular, right? And so that was a kind of really cool experience, and we got to do a lot of algorithm work and that kind of stuff. And that was a lot of fun. But over the years, I've always had a consulting business, and then maybe 8 years ago, 8 years ago, it turned into Bill and 5 friends to Bill and 5 or 6 employees. That turned into Jobs Technology Solutions, and today, Jobs Technology Solutions is the parent company for our AI company, Majime AI, Realty Software Group, Excel Health Systems, and Partnerships Group. Nice. And so that allows us to kind of focus in on healthcare solutions, different AI solutions that we have, and so forth. So, awesome. So that's been my background. I've been very fortunate. So.
Awesome. Very interesting. That's amazing.
That's fascinating. Yeah. I have several questions on me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to.
Yeah, no, fire away. That's why I'm here.
I'm telling you, IT and tech.
Right.
All right, so.
Oh, you wrote them down.
Yeah,
Alice.
Got it.
It's only
okay,
4.
yeah.
Well, I know G has some
with 10 subquests.
Yeah,
right. I'm with you.
Right?
Yeah, that's all right.
Black Mirror.
Yeah,
that's what Alice taking.
Yeah, I got it. Don't worry about it.
No, these are real surface things. So, for someone who is not highly technical, but they have an interest in AI, the industry, what are some good entry level opportunities in AI? I mean, probably is not, but do you know of anything?
Well, so that's an interesting question because the field is, I don't want to say that it's new, but there are a lot of things that are coming out. And on the surface, easy answers are you can do email marketing. You can do different things. Here's an example. I know someone that was very close to me, and they got a promotion. And when they got promoted, they jokingly said to me, hey, do you think AI could help me prepare my new team? And I said, I don't know. It was 1:30 in the morning. I just happened to be up and see the message. I'm like, let me go see. And so I went in and I said, could you generate a letter from this person with this title to their new team? And, here's a little bit of background. Introduce them, and here you go. And it wrote this beautiful letter. And in the letter, it referenced that there'd be a meeting. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I said, hey, can you generate the meeting? And it generated the meeting.
Wow.
Wow.
And I said, can you generate the notes for section 1 through 8? And it generated all the notes.
Very good.
And then I said, can you create a survey to the team of 60 people that she's going to be in charge of? It generated a survey for the people to take.
Wow.
It also, when it generated the 8 sections, it generated a mantra, right, to go through. And I think it was something like, better communication leads to our success, or something like that, right?
Gotcha.
Whatever it was, right? And then I said, can you please create the agenda for one-on-one meetings for this person to their direct reports? And then can you create an agenda for those direct reports to the rest of their team?
Fascinating.
So you asked about an entry-level position. I think there are so many things that someone could say, I could do that for you. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities there. I think there's a lot of opportunities for data science and data scientists to start to combine that information. And so I think those are the surface opportunities, right? And then I think as you get deeper and you start to focus in on some certain things, I think there's some more opportunity there.
Awesome.
But I think off the cuff, I think that's a solid place to start.
Awesome. Do you know of any industries or areas in life that AI is touching that we probably wouldn't be aware of at this point?
Well, I think the scary part of that, again, all the questions are terrifying.
Yeah.
They should be for everyone, to be honest.
Exactly.
If I have access to this, Bill Jobs from tiny little Bentleyville, Pennsylvania, with one red light, that now lives in Holly, Michigan, on a dirt road, has access to what I have and what we do.
Right.
What do big companies have that we're not even aware of?
Exactly.
And so to answer your question, I don't know, and I don't know if I want to know.
I know.
Right? Because that's absolutely terrifying. I think Elon Musk made the comment once. There's either aliens everywhere or no aliens.
Exactly.
And either answer is equally terrifying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think to answer your question, kind of using that,
Yeah.
it's probably everywhere, and I don't know if I want it.
Right. So you got to just stay in your lane with
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, we have to learn to benefit from it, I suppose. Right?
Yeah. I just got 2 more guys.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead. Yeah, we good.
What are some of the best practices for adopting AI into our everyday lives? So for the layman, because there's a lot of people obviously that are scared of what they're seeing in the media, things like that. What are some best practices? You may have answered it in a roundabout way already with the first question about entry-level type roles, but what are some of the ways that you can be more accepting of it? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
what you see.
Well, so that's a really great question, and so. My sister and I just had, I won't say argument because that's not the right term, but discussion.
Discussion.
As I was driving down here. Maybe that's why the trip felt so quickly, because I was talking to Amy on the way down here. So she said, well, how's this going to help an everyday person?
Yeah.
And I said, it's not. It's going to take their job. So I don't know. It's going to help them maybe by lessening their anxiety. And she goes, yeah, but how's it going to build the patio furniture for me? It's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not. So a normal, everyday, average person to embrace this technology, I think, and I've thought about it since she asked it. Now, since you've asked it, now that I've processed it a little bit, especially since she asked earlier, I think we have to understand that in the beginning of computer programs used to be execute this step, and they were top down. Here's the instructions, run these down. With artificial intelligence, you don't have to follow those same rules.
That's right.
Right?
Gotcha.
And I think, some people work probably where there's standard operating procedures. You just said you worked in IT tech, right? And so there's SOPs, right?
Yeah.
And what's the problem with an SOP when Larry doesn't follow it?
Exactly. He just does it.
Right? He just does it, right? And so the scary part of AI is kind of not succumbing to, but trusting that it's going to go do that, and understanding that it's not 100% correct.
Yes.
And so I think the adoption of AI will be subtle. But think about it. How many cars already shift because of AI?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Right? How many things are already available to us that we're already just using? And someone goes, I don't want a car that drives me. Well, how do you think your automatic transmission works?
That's right.
It is true.
Whether it's fuzzy logic or it's other things that it's doing, it's already doing that, right? They make dryers today and washing machines that use 1/10 of the water that they used to use. Like, we bought this nice washing machine at home, and my wife wanted to take it back, and I said, why? And she goes, there's no water in it. I said, it doesn't need any more water. It only uses the water that it needs for the load.
Wow.
And in her head, if that thing's not full, my clothes aren't clean.
Right.
Right. And so,
Exactly, yeah.
so I think one of the things that we can do as a society is start to understand that we have to accept those decisions, and that's okay. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I think the challenge for people is, where do we find that single source of truth? Right. That's going to be the scary part. Right. Otherwise, AI will take over, and then we don't have to think of anything. So I'm not sure if that got to the answer, but I think that's
awesome.
But for an everyday person, I'm not sure how every day, other than everything that you use, right?
exactly.
Your car probably already does it. Your refrigerator, your washing machine, your
Phone.
phone, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. All those things are already doing it, right? And so, right. The phone's a great example,
Your
right?
web browser.
I've never written, the router syncing software,
Exactly.
but I would imagine that's a bunch of not just rules. It's probably
that's
AI
true.
that runs that,
Exactly.
and we don't even know that, right? And that's just the thing that's out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, if I'm an investor, based on your knowledge, what is some of the best areas to invest in AI right now, if any?
Well,
That are reasonable, I guess. For
yeah. So I wouldn't give anyone money advice, right? But, so let me preface that, right? But I can tell you that setting up some of the servers that we use to run the AI code, I would invest in chipsets that run that AI,
That's
right? So
interesting.
NVIDIA, right? I mean, because those servers are way more expensive than a Windows server or a Linux server, right? It's just way more to get the power of those. I know, because we pay that bill every month. And so I looked at the bill and I'm like, where did that come from? Right? Because you think, oh, that's, it's only a penny. Oh, it's less than a penny to call up to the Open API, Chat GPT API. Yeah, well, the server, if you want to run large language models internally, are $600 a month. Well, that's not a penny.
Nah, it's not. Definitely not.
Right? And so so the cost is a lot different. And that's at the small scale that I'm running it at.
Fascinating. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
And your servers, where's your servers connected to?
So right now we use an AWS environment.
AWS.
But Microsoft has environments. There are others out there. We just happen to be an AWS. We're a Microsoft partner, but we use AWS predominantly.
What is AWS?
Amazon Web Services.
Oh, okay.
So we get all of our servers, all that we do. We use all of the tools that are available to us from there.
How does that work anyway? Explain how that works. AWS, the servers itself, is it a particular location where that, or is it?
Well, so they break it up into regions, right?
Okay,
So there's US East, West,
Planning a
Central.
heist or something?
Well, what's interesting, right? No, it's a good question, because what happens is, and it's funny, I just had this discussion with a client of ours. He said, well, I don't have redundant servers. And I'm like, well, then we have to double the cost of hosting, because I need to put it over in the West region.
Okay,
And I said, by the way, redundant servers were very good when you had a server room in your building.
Right, exactly.
Or when you had a server room that someone was hosting offshore. At AWS, the chances of that AWS region going down, what are the chances of that?
Right.
Now, I say that if you live in Fenton area right now and you get on Facebook, you can't use Verizon phones because apparently Verizon's down and Verizon's saying they're not having a problem.
Right.
But everyone in Fenton can't use a Verizon phone,
Yeah,
right?
that's interesting.
And so there's no failover there. It just breaks, right? And how long is it going to break? I don't know. I bet it's up now. Now, has it been down all day? Sure. You know what I mean? So in my time using AWS, we've had some outages in the East regions and so forth. But you know that because your phone doesn't work. None of the games work. None of the applications work because they're using the region we live in, and it's down. And it's sorry, we'll be back in a minute. That's because the AWS region is down. So it's different, right? They have failover. They have inherent failovers, right? Where when you had a server, you had to have people looking at hard drives. You had to have people looking at that. You had to worry about Shelly kicking out the plug from the server, right? That kind of stuff.
Having a room properly ventilated.
Right. I've never been at AWS. Right. I worked at a bank one time. The server room was, foot off the floor. Air conditioning was everywhere. Right. Today, I don't know what AWS servers look like. I have no idea. Maybe it's like the TV show Silo, and they're just sitting underground somewhere. Right. But yeah. So. That would be. But so that's what AWS is to us, right? And the reason we chose AWS is because of all the tools, not just infrastructure pieces. But they have a ton of tools. They have, AWS Lambda, they have, Sage and reporting tools and access to certain things. And so we have a lot of flexibility inside of that environment to do things.
Yeah.
So
This is so exciting, man. My wheels are turning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you already answered the question about like entry-level jobs. What do you think are some possibilities as far as people using AI in their everyday lives instead of waiting for the technology to be given to them in some way? Because whether it's because we start seeing jobs getting lost or taken over by AI and people find other ways to use AI creatively for themselves or just to make their everyday lives simpler. You have any ideas about that?
Yeah, that kind of goes back to that. So when you say an everyday person, what do most people do every day?
Just go to work, eat,
They go to work, they eat, and they sleep.
Yeah.
What do you need AI for?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what does that?
Yeah.
And I don't mean, I don't mean that in a terrible way.
Right, no.
Right.
I'm just
That's
saying.
good the way you're saying
It's not
it,
an
though.
exclusion.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Most people
Mhm.
are worried about I have to pay this bill. Most people are worried about getting my kid to soccer practice. They're not worried about those types of things. A person who wants to get out of that grind to the next level of grind,
Right.
and they can use that now to appear to be even bigger than they are.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
all of a sudden now, more professionalism can happen.
Right.
More, I'm not a graphic artist.
Mm-hmm.
I just went to one of the Comic Cons.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys, I'm trying to think of his name. He was signing the Obi-Wan Kenobi books, and I like Star Wars.
Mhm.
And so I got an autograph. And next to him was a guy who wrote some Boba Fett Mandalorian comics.
Awesome.
I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And he signed him, and I said, how has AI art hurt you?
Mhm.
He said, it's killed me.
Wow.
He said, I used to make all of my money
Mm.
by being a storyboard artist.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
And now no one needs me.
Wow.
Because now they can go to AI and say, draw me this picture, and it draws it.
Wow.
That makes me think, though, find the next problem and be the solution, though. I mean, if you can.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
For sure.
that you can't step out of your industry, per se, but maybe find another problem within your industry and try and be the solution, right?
Yeah. So I think that's where the niche is for someone who wants to get out of where they are
Right.
to where it is. So for instance, Ethan and I have a mutual friend that said, "Hey, I want to start to talk about my story and get my story out, and do these kind of things." I love the guy, but he's not a writer.
Okay.
He's not a person that can put those things down. But if you give him an AI tool and it frames it, and then all he has to do is deliver the message,
Right.
it just elevated him to way more than just
I see. Yeah.
tell a story. So the answer to your question is,
Interesting.
all of a sudden, an ordinary life can become extraordinary if you find a way to use that, right? And so I think that's the opportunity for someone to come out and do those things.
You gave me a thought because I talked to my sister Leah.
Cool.
Leah's pretty. She's an entrepreneur, right? So I called her for some advice because I'm really trying to switch gears and kind of try to add more, I'll say, sustenance monetarily in my life, right? You know what I mean? So making money on the side and whatnot. So I asked her about Upworks, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say Upworks or anything like that, but
Just beep it out.
but I asked her about how to approach this. She said, "Ethan, you already got everything."
Yeah.
She said, "You just need to figure out how to tell your story." And so now, by you saying that, I'm like, man, that's probably a good avenue to use AI to help me enhance who I am. Though I'm not thinking about it, but it's there. It's there. It's about, you know what I mean?
So I love being here, by the way, and I love to see the setup. You guys have this great. So to enhance kind of what you just said, I own Bits and Bytes podcast. I wanted to do a Bits and Bytes podcast,
Sounds
like
familiar.
Bits and Bytes. So
Yeah,
bits
Bits and
like
Bytes.
computer bytes,
Right.
right?
Bytes, right.
And so
BIT.
so I wanted to do Bits and Bytes podcast, technology podcast, and they said, "Well, what would you do?" And I said, "Well, first off, there's an AI engine that turns words into, or just typed words into almost very well English speaking words.
Okay.
And there's Ellen and Larry and Joe and Sally. And I can go now to AI and deliver the script. And I can say, hey, Ellen, run this. Hey, Larry, go do this. And I can put it all together, and we can put together an audio podcast, and there's not a live person talking.
Wow.
That is scary.
Yeah, that's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, we got to get ahead of the game.
So
Now, is this consumer grade
yeah,
stuff?
yeah. Oh yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, consumer level.
It sounds incredible. No, 100%. Yeah, you would never know. And so then if you wanted to add to it, so now if you say, well, what if I had a guest? You could just say, I've got my guest Sally today, and it's Sally talking, and Sally's asking a question, and I'm answering a question, and in the background, someone could walk in and interrupt, and you go, hey, we're in here, and it sounds like a live thing. And we can't do video,
Yeah.
but, well, there is actually companies that do AI video that if you upload an avatar, it moves. But you could tell those. But audio,
Right.
yeah, no
Very
way.
hard to tell.
Yeah, hard to tell. And that particular company, we use them a lot for voice in our videos and stuff. And I think I can't remember the fee now. Forgive me, but for a fee, they will give you a script to read. And they will clone your voice. Literally, you could say, write me a script and say, hey engine, go give me the words, and it writes the words. Now, when it does the words, you have to trick it sometimes. Like sometimes it doesn't pronounce my name correctly.
Okay.
Right, so you have to spell it differently, but who cares, right? I mean, you spell words phonetically, so it gets it correctly, but it says it. But who cares? I mean, that's a minor. I'm sure the AI could say spell it phonetically, and it would do it. So. But that doesn't. That's an easy. But who cares? I mean, if that's an extra 5 minutes, that doesn't matter. But imagine now. So now extract that to a doctor's office, right? So a doctor pays for that to happen, and now you don't get a computer voice whenever you call the doctor. You don't get Shirley or James outside.
The actual doctors.
You get the actual Dr. Lawrence saying, "Hey, how can I help you?" Oh, hey, Mike, this is Mike, and I have this. Hey, Mike, I need you to just relax and calm down for a minute. And it's your doctor's voice. That's crazy, right? And so as we start to see these advancements, I think it's crazy. So again, to go back to both your questions about what's there, I think there's opportunity for a person who's living an ordinary life in this grind to say, what can I learn about this? How can I start to apply these things and go out and apply? The sky's right now. It's a big open. It's an open world to go approach it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Based on what you've seen, Bill, and what you know so far, and then your experience in this span of time, how far would you actually like to see AI go? Would you like to see it regulated and stop at a certain point and remain as a tool, or do you want to see it go further? Yeah, I know it's a scary question because you're in the industry. So,
well, I certainly. So I'm going to answer that question with a few questions to think about.
definitely.
So, for instance, in Michigan we don't have them, but in Illinois you have an I-Pass, in Pennsylvania you have an Easy Pass, right?
Yes.
And you travel around and all that kind of stuff. And I remember when they first came out. I don't break the law. Like I'm not jumping off an exit to rob a bank and then go. I don't do those things, right? And so, but I said, that's terrible because now I don't want someone to know where I'm going.
Yes, that's true.
Right, and so I think as AI advances, we have to be comfortable with giving up some of our freedoms that we have today. And that's hard because I like being a private person. It's funny because I'll talk about anything. But there's certain things I like. Oh, you know
exactly what you mean.
And if you have to beep this, I don't tell you the color of my underwear. That's not. You know what I mean? Like that's. You know what I mean? That's what I mean, right? I mean, there's certain things you still hold to yourself, right? And but for AI to take over, so now as far as regulations go, I'm not a fan of potential regulation that says, sorry, we're going to ban self-driving trucks to save the trucking industry.
I got you.
Now, that doesn't mean I don't like truck drivers. That doesn't mean I don't like them. I just don't know what the answer is to what do you do with 3.5 million people or however many people that do that are. I don't have that answer. I think the question is going to become, and the answer to that question is the availability of the last mile. You've probably heard that before, right? The last mile problem. AI can take you so far, And then can it deliver to your house? Can it get down that dirt road? Can it get up that street in San Francisco? Can it, and project management, can it push everyone over the edge? Can it, whatever it might be, right? Can it do that last part, so pick whatever industry is that last mile. I think what's going to happen is most people will be pushed into that last mile. And in theory, it should be a better experience for all of us.
I see.
Because now you have people solving our problems that the last mile needs to be solved in.
Understood.
And so I don't want to see regulations to stop the first piece.
Understood.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Right. I don't want to see regulations to slow that part down. I think that would be detrimental.
Okay.
I think we have to understand it. I think there also has to be a sense of truth.
Yes.
And so that's a little scary, right? Because if I fine tune an AI engine and you fine tune an AI engine and you fine tune an AI engine, in the end, is it really an AI engine that's different? I mean, we talked about this before, and I asked this question once before in a different group setting, and maybe if it's inappropriate, just please wipe it out. But I asked before, if all the science books got destroyed and all the Bibles got destroyed, what would happen in 1,000 years?
We have another.
Right. Well, I said the Pythagorean theorem would still be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It wouldn't be called that. Right.
Something else.
I don't know if the area of a square would be called the area of a square because it would have to be named, but it would still be side times a side would be whatever they called it.
Right.
And so those single points of truths become a lot more hard to understand. But don't we have that today?
Right. Right.
I mean, we have that today without our artificial intelligence.
Right.
What
That's
websites do you read?
It's
What
so true, man.
what people do? I mean, no offense, you brought me here, and maybe someone else has a different opinion of those things, right? And so although I appreciate it, and although I think I have a great experience, that's the same problem. So I don't know if AI is any different. It's just going to be more abundant,
Right.
and more accessible to everybody.
Gotcha. Thank you. Sounds good. Yeah.
Would you say that the hysteria might be a hyperbole, but would you say that the panic or concern, there we go, would you say that the immense concern among the general public due to what we see on social media and hear in news media regarding AI and the potential devastating effects, you think that's valid and warranted?
So as technology has changed from the dawn of time, right? I mean, the person that had, the chisel and the hammer and carve things into stone, right? Certainly would look at a typewriter and go,
Right.
right? And the person that had a typewriter now looks at a computer and goes, right? And so it's that same kind of feeling, right? It's that so now, but the world is a lot bigger. Or we were talking about population, like I just spent time in Italy, right? We were talking about population centers that were way smaller than they are today, right? So the impact has an impact on way more people. I think focus is going to be on that last mile. I think if people can understand that it's going to make my life easier. I think there was a Maytag commercial, 20 years ago. I'm getting older the more I think about it. But the guy showed up at the person's front door. And they said, I'm here to change the filter in your refrigerator. And the husband said to the wife, honey, did you call the refrigerator guy? And she said, no. And he said, we didn't call you. And they said, your refrigerator did. Well, that was 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Right? That was a commercial I remember from eons ago. That still hasn't happened yet. So is hysteria fair enough? That stuff hasn't happened yet.
Sure.
Right? And so are there certain things that's scary? Can car manufacturers today turn your car off?
Yeah.
I think they can, right?
Yeah.
And so does that matter if it's an electric car or not? I think they can still turn it off.
Yeah.
Right? And so some hysteria is work, but I think it should be framed in the sense of, now how can I use this to be better? I talked to someone the other day, it was a friend of the family's, and they came in and said, well, we're going through this merger and we're doing this, and I need to be better, and I'm worried about this. And I'm like, why are you worried? Just be better. Well, I don't know what to do. Well, and they said, I said, here, start to use this tool. And they were blown away. They sent me a message the other day and said, I did all this stuff and I presented it and I'm implementing my now they want me to do it in other places.
Oh, wow.
And so, yes, hysteria is a real thing, but I think again, people get in that spiral downward, right? And they get in, and then mob mentality rules, and they start to spin down into things, and
talk about that all the
and
time.
everyone lives in the mud, right?
Yeah.
You got to be above the mud, right? And so can't help someone if they don't lift themselves up, right? So I think that's a thing. So now that said, I texted my buddy the other day, who's my best friend, is my chief technology officer.
Okay.
I texted him at midnight, said we're all not going to have jobs in 3 years, right? You know what I mean? Like we better figure this out. You know, like because it's scary. Like you know, some of the algorithms and some of the things that we do in our tools, we don't need programmers anymore.
Oh wow.
Like we don't have to write the program anymore. Like we are literally going out and saying, hey. You know, through these engines out there, tell me what this is, and it gives you the answer. I don't have to write software to do it anymore.
Wow.
And so it's crazy.
So, in your opinion, especially, you know, having given us the insight on the text message that you sent to your friend, is it something that you think, I mean, because let's be real, humanity will continue to go forward until its extinction, that's not just because, you know, people are losing jobs or whatever. So, do you see a future where everyone is living, like you said, everyone is living and making their means in that quote unquote last mile, or whether like what does it look like for, in your opinion?
Yeah.
What does it look like for getting a cheeseburger, driving to work, you know, getting your hair done or a haircut, or getting a house built, and those type of things?
Yeah, so I'm certainly not like a Gene Roddenberry or a George Lucas, right?
Of course.
I don't have a frame in the future. I'm so focused on the right now, right?
Okay.
But in that future, like if you think of those worlds, right, everyone dresses the same.
Yeah.
Right? You think of those things like everyone has the same shirts, everyone has the same pants, everyone
Same
you know,
haircut.
it's the same kind of thing, right? It kind of comes into this thing. And you think to yourself, okay, is that because they don't have to make a decision anymore? Right? Has AI done everything for them? So I wish I would have brought it, and I had intended to. I put it out. I have my old Trapper Keeper from whenever I was a kid.
I remember.
So I'm 52. I learned to program when I was just a kid. I had a Commodore VIC-20.
Wow.
And in my Trapper Keeper, I have all the programs I wrote when I was a kid.
Wow.
So
sweet.
I wrote my own little Zork game, like a text adventure.
Yeah.
I wrote a little game called Red Alert, which was kind of like a sideways Space Invaders before Space Invaders was out. And I wrote all this stuff on it was a VIC-20, then it was a Commodore 64 and so forth.
Yeah.
And I have all of that stuff. And I thought to myself, gosh, as a kid, I spent all this time thinking about this and putting all this effort into this creativity. And today, I can go do this, and it writes it for me. And I go, I don't like that, change that. And it does it. So I don't have to be creative anymore. And that's the scary part.
Yeah.
So
That's the part that,
that's the part that's scary, right? That's the part that is, what does the future look like? Now, psychologists might say, well, there's less anxiety. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I don't know, right? Because in my head, I mean, look, I'll retire tomorrow, right? I mean, if there's an opportunity to say I don't have to go to the grind 7 days a week, my name's on the door. I've got no problem. I'm just saying I'm good.
Right.
If I didn't have to worry about certain things, I'm good.
Yeah.
But then you have to think to yourself, what would you do all day? I mean, there's a reason why we die.
Yeah.
Right? I think I just saw Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? He was talking about in a few years, we will be able to, the life expectancy will be down to where we can, like it's within a year, we can fix the problem. So people can just, like, instead of like people used to die when they were 30.
Right.
Now they die when they're 90.
Right.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when we die when we're 140?
Yeah.
Or eventually we're going to hit an area where you're going to almost live forever. What are you going to do when you're 140?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, am I going to be able to move around? Am I going to be able to think? Am I going to, now I got bit by a mosquito yesterday on the golf course, and it looked like I had a cyber implant on my forehead. It's still swollen here, right? But so that future, again, I'm not a science fiction writer, and I'm so focused on the present.
Okay.
I would like to think that our daily problems would be handled. I would like to think that the worries of the days, we don't have to worry about anymore. And I would like to think that in that future, what we have to avoid is going backwards into this is my little hole, this is my comfort community.
Yeah.
And I think, and this isn't what we're talking about today, but I think part of the downfall has been, I think it all started with massively multiplayer online games, right? Everyone had their own little community.
Mm-hmm.
And when they slayed the dragon, they said, I'm first. Because in their group, they were told they were first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's 400,000 people playing that game, or 40,000. You weren't first. You might have been in the, and so in the future, I think we have to avoid staying in a small group. I think we have to be able to branch out. And then when you branch out, then you have the problem of social media today,
That's what I'm saying.
right? Like I just went to Italy. You go to the Trevi Fountain at 6 a.m. or 9 o'clock at night, there's 1,000 people there.
Mm-hmm.
Go look at the Trevi Fountain on Instagram. There's some beautiful girl standing there all by herself. Let me tell you something. That fountain wasn't by itself ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Software.
Right. And so it's kind of, you know what I mean? So that truthfulness. And so I don't have quite a better answer than that about, again, because I'm so focused on the next, few years of my company, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I would like to think that things that we worry about every day, we don't have to worry about. I don't have to worry about transactions. I don't have to worry about the transactional things in my life. They get taken care of.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not the type of person that likes to. I'm not looking to seek a negative perspective or view this from a negative perspective. But a question that was raised in my mind when you were saying, the worries of the day, hopefully will be eliminated. So then my question is, and I think you kind of hit on it, but I kind of want to expound on it a little bit more. Is what will we be left with? And this is a question for all of us, just as a kind of a something to provoke thought. If all of the problems of our normal everyday today grind are removed, like you said, what are we left with? You know what I mean? Of course, we got raising kids, having fun and eating food and going to sleep and whatever. But without giving consideration to what my tomorrow looks like, or the project that I have to finish for school or work or whatever. Without these things to occupy our time and our minds, my concern is that this will become our world. The social media. If I don't have to worry about, all of my bills are automated, all of my work is automated, and this and that and whatever, then I become, in my mind, and you can, share. This is for everybody. But of course, Bill, I'd like to hear your input. But my thought is, then I become more of a leech onto whatever device I have or whatever. I feel like my time will be spent continuously in entertainment almost.
Well, I think that's what I meant by we have to guard ourselves against being in a shell.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Right, that's what I meant. Right, and pulling back into that. That's what I meant. We have to
Okay.
guard ourselves against that, whether it's an individual in a shell or just the five of us in a shell.
Okay.
We have to guard ourselves against that. Right, we have to find ways to do that kind of stuff. I mean, a corollary to that is, I think. And I'm working on a book called When the Last Story's Ever Told. What do you do when the last story's already told? I mean, think about movies today. Go find a movie, and there was a movie made in the 40s, 20s about it. Go listen to a song, there was right? And so what do you do when the last story's already told? I mean, how many times? I mean, think of the complaints that have been out there today about new movies and new things. I've seen that story. That story is just this. Tom Cruise made, Top Gun Maverick. Oh, that's just Star Wars over again. It goes to the Death Star, runs the run, right? Come on, it was, but it was.
Good point.
And so that's kind of the. I think that's what we have to guard ourselves against, right? That's a real thing, right? Because when the last story's told, what's left?
You know what? That actually is more inspiring to me than terrifying. And the reason why I say that is because it's my belief that the thing that separates a man from a machine in terms of, a machine can learn and even fool us in a lot of things. But sheer creativity is something that I believe that human beings kind of have more of a monopoly on. So then a story can be told and retold a million times in a million different ways by a machine that's seen all of the other stories from before. My thing is, or at least my thought is that a human being is the creative force that can go and take over these new unseen, what do you call it, IP, you know what I mean? Something that's never been thought of before or whatever. I think that could be the difference. What do you think about that?
Well, don't they? I mean, you work in the industry and cars. Don't they write software? And I don't think they have it in cars, but they write software now that repairs itself.
Yeah. Okay.
And they write software that fixes itself.
Right.
Right. Satellite software. Right. It fixes itself. It changes its own code. It goes through and does that. So,
Right.
are we far away from that? I don't know how far away.
Okay.
Right. But there's certainly things there. We're working on software in our company that before we had what was called a rules-based engine. Now we're teaching the AI what it should be, and the AI is saying, "I know what that is,"
And they fix it.
and it goes and just does it for you and puts it inside of the middle, what we call a pathway. We have an entire AI platform we have, and it puts these pathways in, and it knows how to insert it into the system. So you, as a user, go, "I know what that is," and a person didn't go put that in there.
Right.
No one had to go do that, right? The AI just says, "I know what I have to do here,"
Yeah.
That's awesome.
and so. Kind of creative.
It's kind of scary too, in a way.
Well, I meant creativity more than I see what you're saying, and that does make sense. I think what I'm pointing to in terms of creativity is art, music, film, sculpture,
Cooking.
painting, that type
Well,
of
have
thing.
you seen Midjourney?
Is that a movie?
No. It's a program where you type in, "Draw me a picture that does this."
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, but that came from But see, that's my point. So that comes from what I choose to give the. You know what I'm saying? Give the machine.
Sure.
So if my creativity says I want to see Elmo riding the T-Rex while he's playing thumb wars with Bill, then that my creativity come up with the thought, and then the machine obviously, like you said, augments whatever it is.
Yeah, so fair enough. So Ethan's at the store and he goes, "I think my kids would like a coloring book. He can buy a coloring book." Would an AI say, "Oh, I have young kids. Let me give them something to do. Let me run through the list of things." So we say that, but we have a tool right now. We're getting ready to release, and we've asked it, "Hey, can you create 10 activities for kids to learn this lesson?" And one of them was a word search. And so now we're trying to get the actionable things to actually act on itself. So without me saying, "Hey, number 3 was a word search. Can you create the word search?" And it does, by the way. We're trying to get it to recognize itself that it had an actionable thing that then's going to create another prompt to go action on that and then give you a complete thought. So
Wow.
I don't know if it's far away, but right now we're just poking the bear. We're nudging it along.
Okay.
In short order, we're going to be able to say, "Oh, you said that was an actionable thing. Is that an actionable thing that I can do?" "Oh, yes." "Is that something you can do?" "It is." "Well, go ahead and do it."
Okay.
And so is that you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's far-fetched, right? I think that's right around the corner. So we're already doing that. One of the tools we're about to release is that, right? So it's going to say, create a talk over this, and it's going to create the talk. And then it's going to say, go create activities for kids about this talk. And now we're trying to get it to, without someone prompting it, "Hey, can you complete that thought for me?" It recognizes that it gave the idea, but it needed to complete it. So go back and complete it. Now it gives you a whole thing. And then it says, "Give me a worksheet for someone to work on this for a week." So imagine, like, you guys, this is unscripted, right? But let's say we run this through the engine, through OpenAI's engine. We could take this. You're going to have the audio. I can run this through the OpenAI engine when you're done with it. It'll take the entire audio, convert it to text, and then I can say, write a summary for it. I could say, write some questions to make sure people understood it. I could say, what were the highlights of the things that were talked about? And can you create some activities and things to ponder about?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm all for it. 100%.
Because the whole idea is not an imagination. What we're talking about, we want to show that this is something that is coming and is already here.
It's here. It's not coming, right? It's live here, right? 100%.
And if we put, like, I don't know if y'all agree, if we do it, like, we run it through, and I can give it to you, the audio.
Yeah, give me the audio. We'll
and
put it
see if it actually gives a.
Yeah.
Because I want to show, because we talk about this, and then I want to say this is live.
Yeah, we did this. Right?
This is what
I'm
we
all
did.
for it.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. I mean, there are actually tools we use today. Like, it's funny. I hired an office assistant.
Okay.
And she said to me the other day, she said, "I have nothing to do." you know, because most of my life is automated. Right? Just like everyone else I worked for, I had to do this, set a reminder here. This, you're on your tablet, phone, computer. Your phone rings if your phone doesn't ring, or if your computer doesn't ring, your tablet rings. If your tablet doesn't ring, your phone rings. If that doesn't ring, your watch rings. By the time if they're, I'm not going to find you. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need me to look you up, right? You know, reminders are everywhere, right? We have a tool now that it goes into a meeting. And it actually tells you, this was Mike talking, this was Ethan talking, this is Bill talking, and it splits it up, it highlights it. Like, that's another third party, and we pay $30 a month for it.
Wow. So you get briefings.
And so I don't need anyone to take notes. I literally, so all of our projects, we invite that. I don't, my what I call middle management, they don't have to get status updates. They get a summary email from project meetings from our project managers because those notes go into the system. We dump them into the thing and send the summary email, and everybody has it. Like the PM doesn't even have to do it. So now we can run on less people. The project manager can run more than one project because they're not doing busy work.
Right.
Wow.
Man.
And that's today. Again, that, and if Bill Jobs has that, what do other people have?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Wow. You had more. You only asked me one question. You said you had.
I'll ask a couple of them. The rest of mine are dark. We could ask all.
No. Go ahead.
No, I mean, because we watched the Unknown Killer Robots documentary a couple weeks ago after we finished recording, and I'm not concerned about people like you that have creative uses for it and benevolent uses for it. It's the fact that the military-industrial complexes across the world do, and they're not thinking of good things to do with it, right? So that's where my mind goes to it, right? So it's like, you know, and I'm not, I don't try to be a negative person like that all the time. I don't see AI falling into good-natured people's hands across the board, and I worry about what that's going to lead to, right?
Yeah. So I have a story outlined where I was asked one time in my first job interview if I had a button that could go back and let me go back in time and fix a mistake. They said, "Would you want it?" And I said, I would never want that because I'd just be the smartest 1-year-old in the world, right? Because I'd never age, right? I would be the smartest 1-year-old because every mistake I'd made, I'd hit the button, go back, fix it, and then I'd be the smartest. I'd never grow up, right? Because you make mistakes all the time, right? And so in my story, I took that concept, and the antagonist stole the technology from the protagonist, went to people with terminal diseases and said, hey, the device moved you through time, right? So it didn't fix a mistake, it just moved you through time, but it took years off the end of your life, right? And so the protagonist took the device and said, oh, well, you're going to die in 3 months anyway, might as well die in a week and go rob this bank, and we'll give some of the money to your family, and you were going to die in anyway. Right? And so the book had a whole bunch of people that lived to be forever because they were against the device, right? Wow. Because they didn't want to use it, so they lived forever. Wow. And then there were a bunch of 20-year-olds, and there were no middle-aged people because they were all, you know what I mean? It was all, right? So, so you're right. Look, did anyone ever think that someone would drink a whiskey and drive a car?
Right.
You know, did anyone ever think that, you know, they would take a weapon that was used for hunting to stab someone in the head? I think that's a sad fact of progress.
Yeah, it is, and I'm very pro technology, so I'm not against it. It's just I know what the worst of humanity can do, and even every tool we've mentioned so far, right? Every last one of those tools, it still required a human to actuate it, and we're now coming upon the precipice of the first tool that is self-thinking that will take all of its initial prompts from humanity, but after a while, it's not going to need us to give it those prompts anymore. And even your thought about us, you know, kind of not having to kind of go into communities, I think that's going to be the only place you'll still have a semblance of life as we know it today is going to be in communities where people say we don't want any of this technology here, so we can still do our jobs, go out there and make the food, and have a normal, what people might, you know, kind of draw a meaningful life, so to speak, right? It's going to change a lot.
Yeah, well, maybe we have that today, right? We have Amish people.
Absolutely.
We have people that don't use phones, right?
Absolutely.
The Amish people don't use phones,
For sure.
right? I mean, they don't drive cars, right?
For sure.
You know, we have, you know, other, you know, areas of the world, right, where people believe certain things and shut that stuff out. So, So maybe that will be the case, right? Again, I'm
Right.
not a Gene Roddenberry, right?
No,
So-
I know.
I don't know what that
But-
story you just told. You might be.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about the augmentation aspect of it? Human augmentation.
So I think that's awesome.
Right.
Right, I think that's awesome. I mean,
Right.
look, we had a Cadillac, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're driving in the Escalade with the big screen, and you've got directions, and it tells you the arrows on where to turn, and it's right on the street. There's no, I forgot that road. There's no, where was that again? And I'm holding my phone. I'm looking at this, and I missed the road. This just says turn right, turn left, move. I think augmented reality is awesome.
Human augmentation. Neuralink.
Well, all human augmentation. So
Neuralink,
now if you take that concept, okay, so let's start. If you take augmented reality and now you move it into my mind can see whatever I want. So is that an advantage? Is that why in future movies like The Matrix, they live in a shack? Because when you're plugged into the Matrix, you're living in a castle.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Is that going to be true? Well, I don't know. I've seen some of the virtual reality stuff. It's amazing.
Yes, it is.
I mean, there are people that, like I said, then the haunted, VR escape rooms, they're taking their helmets off, right? My staff on the roller coaster took their the VR headset off because it was too real for them,
Love it.
right?
Yeah.
I was playing Star Wars Episode 1, Vader, the Vader series on the Oculus, and I'm playing and I'm doing this thing. And in most video games, if you've played them right, you hit the button and you climb up a ladder, and then you jump over here and you shimmy on a pipe, right? I jump on a ladder and I'm climbing, and I have to climb, right? Because it's virtual reality. So I'm climbing up the ladder. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a pipe, and I grab onto the pipe and I'm shimmying, and I'm like, whoa! And I was like, I was way, way high. Like, it almost like, I had to remind myself I'm in a video game, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
if you take those constructs now, and now you put them inside of your head, and now, does that help me move better?
Right.
Does that go back to what I said before?
Right.
What happens when we live to 140?
Right. Yeah.
Is that going to solve? I mean, if you believe that population is decreasing, does that solve our population problem? You know what I mean? That
Right.
and I don't know. So
Right.
so I think that stuff's awesome. Look, if I didn't need a computer and I could just say, "Hey, what is this?" I had the first Google Glass, right? I mean, gosh, that was however many years ago. I still have it. Oh, it was had to be longer than that, 15 or 20 even. I don't even know if I mean, it was I remember it was like $2,000. My wife was so mad when I got right to get into it because I wanted the right code, I wanted the right software for it, right?
Sure.
But like a dummy, I wear glasses, and the first versions, I don't even think you couldn't do it if you had glasses.
Right.
So I'd have to take my glasses off and look in this thing. I couldn't do anything else with it, right?
Right.
And then every other fool that knew it was Google would say, "Hey, Google," and then it would mess up the Google. but
Nice.
but if that was in my head or if that was in my body to perform things, look, would I love to be able to see my dad who had a stroke walk? And if those things could get him to do those things, I think that's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
If it allows people to have an answer at the ready, that's great. Imagine the good part of it. Imagine if it woke up every day and just said, "You're gonna have a great day today." Do you know how great you would feel?
Right.
Do you know how awesome? I mean, positive affirmations, whatever it is. Imagine if that was just into your body and you just had those things and you fix those things in your body. I think that's amazing.
Absolutely.
So that doesn't scare me at all. I think that's
Right.
incredible.
Agreed.
There's
Oh, go ahead.
just I'll say this real quick. The only thing that I don't like anything plugged in my body. That's just me, right? The thing that I think about is what you said a long time ago was hacking.
Right. Yeah.
The hackers, man. That's what I think about because no different than you talk about like. Okay, like you look at Bill, I mean, he lays out his plan of what he's doing with AI, right? But then you got this dark side, you got, dark governments, black projects and different things like that you use AI for different things, right? So I think about that hack part, you know what I'm saying? And someone, just because they can do it, they will do it. And that's the type of behaviors that we would deal with that kind of stuff. That's the only,
Again,
I know.
they still
man.
build skyscrapers.
Mhm.
People still jump off them.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's,
No, it's true.
I get it.
Yeah.
And we have to build better mousetraps. We have to, you know what I mean? We have to find ways to do those things. I still think, though, some of the best advancements were because of hackers.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't think of it.
No.
Don't think of it in a bad way, right? Try to think of it in, they got in and they stole some stuff, or they did this,
But they
but-
exposed
but they exposed
The
something that,
weaknesses.
they exposed something that now advanced technology, right? It moved it forward. And so, if you read the 2600 magazines and the hacker magazines, and you read that kind of stuff, and you follow those groups, most of those guys are just saying, hey, I just wanted to make a free phone call. You know what I mean? Like, I found a way to go to an old payphone and
Right.
hook a quarter in and throw it back in, and it made the same noise. And then I realized I didn't have to do that; it was just a sound. And so I just recorded the sound, like the coin going in, and they go, "Okay, got it. Those were 2 quarters and a dime." Right?
2 quarters.
Right? And so and so, but they advanced technology. Technology's now advanced, right? And so. So did we have to suffer through some things to get to some good things? Probably, And so I think that's always going to be the case. And that's going to be the little bit of back and forth we have to go through.
Yeah.
I think, though, as we move forward, things happen so fast. Again, buy a computer today, it's obsolete tomorrow.
That's true.
Right? You get a phone, my phone is not even a year old. And the battery life is only 88%. Like the battery health is 88%, which means when the iPhone 15 comes out, I'm going to buy another one.
Yeah.
Right? And
Well,
so,
that's a whole different thing.
well,
Enjoy it, man.
So I have a question for you. Red pill or blue pill?
that's a great question, but I think I'd live in the Matrix.
I thought you might.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, look,
I'm not blaming you. I don't think it's a bad choice one way or another. I think it's about personal opinion and personal preference. But
so I love having control over things, and I love doing that kind of stuff. But there's nothing wrong with having some peace. There's nothing wrong. Look, I wear an Aura ring, and it tracks sleep, and it tracks all this stuff. And I'll have to send you guys a picture of it. This is hilarious. Most people view the things that I do and they say, how are you not stressed to the max? And consistently, I just showed my wife today's thing. This tracks what they call, not redemption, what do they call it? Maybe it is. It's the relaxation time that you're in. When your body's in a relaxed state. When your heart rate is nice and even and low and your hands are warm, it says your body's in a relaxed state. It's 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Do you know how much time of relaxation I have? That's when I'm working. Do you know how much relaxation time I get?
I don't know.
I get all of it. I have green bars all the way across throughout my entire day.
Wow.
When I go home, right? All over the place, right? When I'm out, it's crazy. It's unbelievable, right? But when I'm in that moment and I'm in those things, I'm in this state of things. So when you ask me about those times of real, I think that part's okay. That's the part that's there, and so I don't know. I mean, look, I love to have control and I love to be able to do those things, but there's a lot to be said for being in a peaceful state. I mean, look, I want to know and I want to know those things, and I think that's good. And I think if you had an opportunity to advance society, I'd make a different choice.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, do I really want to know that we live in the Matrix? Like, what's the advantage of knowing? What are you going to do if you find that out? Other than go crazy. Right? I mean, what would be
That's
the
a very
alternative?
good point.
That's
a very good
what do you
point.
do?
So, what do you do?
Okay, so is it something where it's saying, okay, I'm willing to relinquish a certain level of, like you said, control and or freedom in exchange for, my green bars on my, you know what I mean? Is that you say, so you're saying that in your opinion, that's a fair trade?
Well, you do that today.
Yeah, sure.
You have a phone, you have a watch.
Absolutely.
You have a car. I mean, all those things can be tracked. I mean, and even without those things, red lights have cameras on them.
Yep.
I mean, you go out into a store, you're being recorded.
Yep.
Right? So we're giving up our freedoms at every turn. right? And so I think we already do that today, and I think people just aren't aware of it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know if
Fair
it's
enough.
any. I mean, I think it's a little different, but not much. I mean, we're still giving it up.
Yeah.
You
Fair
pay for a
enough.
credit card. I mean, there was a story years ago. What was the store? Target? I can't remember. The store doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But they sent a 15-year-old girl coupons for diapers, pregnancy stuff.
Okay.
And the dad got livid. Well, that's because from her buying habits, they figured out she was pregnant. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And that was years ago. This wasn't 2 months ago. That was years ago. Right? And so again, now, same thing. I used to work at a bank. We had a quadrant that we would rank people in, right, based on certain answers. Oh, you must have been this, you must have been. So you want these kind of products, you want this, you want this, you want that. That happened 30 years ago. So now a computer's just helping make that model, right? And it's fine tuning it a little bit. My argument to that, by the way, is if you looked at my playlist of music that I like, you would go, get out of here. Right? Like you probably wouldn't believe what my playlist is. Like at night, I listen to Rag and Bone Man, Only Human or Human, right? So that's a hard one. Then I listen to Clout. I don't know who sings that, but I used to be able to play that on the piano. Whatever, and then there's a polka song.
Oh, okay.
Right? Completely different. So when I worked at the internet radio company, we would always try to work on algorithms to find what you'd like next. And I'd always break our algorithms because I like all kind of music.
Same.
Right? And so that's kind of the challenge there, right? So so anyway, it's I think there's opportunities, but there's some safe space there. There's a lot to be said for being in that zone, right? And doing that stuff.
So you suggest that the safe space is potentially, or at least hopefully, more significant and in greater quantities than the space that makes people afraid.
Yeah. I don't think people should live in fear, right? I think society is better in moving, and I'm hopeful that as we advance in AI, whatever it is, self-driving cars, fridges that call to get fixed, whatever it is, I hope everyone has access to those things because that's the other part,
That's
right?
the other part.
That's the other part, right? The other part is having access to those things.
Yeah.
What I take as commonplace, some people may say he's a wizard.
Yeah.
I'm so angry at myself. And so the guy that bought the domain from me, I hope he's watching this. I used to own the domain Modern Day Wizard because I was talking to a group of software developers and I said, we're like the old magicians, right? We were the medieval time wizards, right? As a computer programmer, as a software person, right? We're the modern day wizards. So we can take data, we can do this. We were the magicians. So I bought the domain Modern Day Wizard. I bought it for $1.99. And 2 days later, a guy offered me $1,500 for it.
Wow.
And I sold it because I'm like, I paid $2. Why wouldn't I make 15?
Right.
And I'm so angry that I sold it. And the guy builds like yurts off the grid or something. I wanted to kill myself, right? And so,
Right.
I was like, that's terrible. That's but good for him. I hope he's seeing this. That's a good thing. But But we're really, in technology, we're those modern day wizards, and you do so many amazing things, and hopefully those amazing things are accessible by everybody.
Yeah,
That's really going to be the key. Can my grandmother use it, or do we have to wait? No offense, and not that my grandparents are gone, my parents are gone, but do we have to wait for the next generation? There are even 52-year-olds, right? I'm 52. Yeah. There are people like me that don't touch technology.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So what's going to happen when my kids do this? Right? What are happening when my grandkids are going to come through? What's going to be exposed to them and what's their world going to look like? It's probably going to be so much easier. And I'm hopeful it's better for them and they don't lose creativity. They don't lose the ability to tell a story. And more importantly, they don't lose this.
Yeah. Yes.
The things that we're doing in this room, the things that we're talking about today, the people that listen to us here, not just am I grateful that you all invited me here today, but this group, this is amazing. I don't know if AI can replace that.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if AI could I could build conversations and you could say, create me a script, but is it going to be able to know that did this, or that you laughed at this, or that you
Yes.
know, or that,
Yes.
that and I just don't know if it's ever going to get to that point. So I think in the grand scheme of things, at least in my near future, I think that's the part that's missing. But for traditional task-oriented things, those things are
I'm
gone.
glad to hear you say that, babes. We really like doing this, so
I love this. This is great.
we don't want this to change.
You guys can invite me anytime. I'll come. I can come
Definitely.
anytime. Yeah,
Definitely.
you can invite me to the group. I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get in, but I'll figure it out. I'll bring a gift next time.
Yeah, bring a lightsaber.
Yeah, and honestly, you can put this. Yeah, honestly, I'm so sorry I didn't bring a gift. I called my wife and I said, I feel like such a jerk. I said, I wish I didn't know it was their 1 year anniversary on the 7th. Because now I know, should I bring them flowers or something?
man,
I
get
didn't
the
bring the
flowers and the
lightsaber. Should I
lightsaber.
just brought something just to say congrats?
Right.
Instead, I show up